Well, it's great to be here today in what I would call, Deb, a peaceful and loving view, but it is really great to see you.
Really good to see you, my friend. Really good.
How long ago did we run into each other?
We met, Chris is 26, so we met 25 years ago. We've been friends for 25 years. Seems like yesterday.
And that was probably when Six and Out were thinking they can sing and they were learning to sing.
They were learning to sing at the time, I do remember that. I went to many a Six and Out concert.
Yeah, I want to have a chat to you about a few things, some really important things. That you've been working in the club industry for a really long time. It's almost triple of what schooling was for us. It's become your life.
It has. Look, I've been in the club industry for 30 odd years. I started working with clubs when I was in banking, so I've been banking about 35, 40 years. She says a bit scarily. I was 5 when I started, Gav.
5?
Yeah, I was a genius. Yeah, so I've been in the club industry for about 25, 30 years now.
Yeah. It's a people's business, it's also community's business, but you've now set up Clubs Without Borders.
Yes.
Was that a shock? Did it come did COVID play a role?
Yeah, it's a good question. COVID did play a role. I guess in the COVID shutdown, I was at a bit of a crossroads, as was everybody. You know, what do we do? What do you do going forward? The club industry, certainly when the clubs had to shut down, there was a threat on their livelihood, and that flows onto the community. You know, because they're very community based. So at the time, I've been with Clubs New South Wales for about 15 years at the time. I consulted to Clubs New South Wales. I've always had my own business. And then there was a moment in the backyard. I'll tell you a quick story about it. I'd written an article about insurance, and I've been telling the clubs for years, you've got to understand what you sign, you've got to pay attention. And during the bushfires and the floods, there was a lot of clubs who thought they had all this insurance until they went to claim. So I'd written an article that said something to the effect of, guys, you've got to understand what you're signing. You've got to make sure your insurance is adequate for your needs today. And just because somebody rocks up at the club every year doesn't mean they're necessarily doing the right thing by you, and you've got to keep up to date and make sure the insurance meets your needs today, so wherever you are. So I was sitting in the backyard and I had a supplier or a sponsor ring up and abuse me about this article that I'd written. And he was very abusive on the phone. To this day I don't know who that gentleman was. I know the company, but I don't know who he is. And I sort of thought, well, you know, I think there's a space for independent advisory to the industry to help them into the future, but with no relationship to any sponsor, so no conflict whatsoever. So hence the Clubs Without Borders. And of course, you know, I've predominantly dealt with New South Wales and Queensland. But I know a lot of the clubs in Victoria, so we thought we'll go Australia-wide.
It's not as if you can just walk to TAFE or university and do a course. I mean, it sounds to me like the depth of your training has a lot to do with walking the walk. Yeah,
it's club-based, so and I've got 1,000 stories about different things that have happened in the club industry, so they love that. So we've got a range of training sessions on governance, finance, strategic planning, risk management, that sort of stuff. And then we've got some accredited units. So we've done, I've joined forces with an RTO in Queensland, and we've got a diploma in business, solely based on the club industry.
What about communication and relationships with directors, especially with regard to how the communication goes, how the understanding of training and moving forward goes?
Well, some of the directors are a bit hesitant on the finance, let me put it that way. So if you've never been trained in finance, how are you supposed to understand a balance sheet and a profit and loss statement? So there's some trepidation, if you like, when they come in the room. They're not too bad on the governance, but when they finance, they're going, oh, we don't, you know. But the good news is that I go through the balance sheet and the profit and loss and the cash flow statement, literally line by line. I assume no knowledge, and they come out very chuffed that they actually understand, and it's not as hard as they thought it was.
And what about today? I mean, what are you working on now?
Oh, we've got a lot going on, Gav. We're working on a leadership and strategy conference post-COVID for the club industry. That's in February, the 5th and 18th of February. So we've got Junior Pearce, who's going to talk about the strategies that were going on behind the scenes to get the NRL on the field. First team in the world to be back on the field post-COVID, so that'll be good. We're going to be talking about mental health with your mate Gus Warland and Tree Burton, who's the ex-Minister for Mental Health. So we're going to talk about strategies that clubs can look out for to protect their staff and their members and the community. We've got a couple of lawyers, Richard and Helen, who'll be debating some of the workplace relations cases in clubland at the moment, bullying and harassment, and talking about new legislation. And then we've got John Rafferty, who's the CEO of the COPSEC Services Club. And Raf's just built a new, you'll love this, he's built a new rooftop bar in the heart of the CBD of Coffs Harbour. And you've got to see what he's done to get a water view. So wow. I'll take you up and show you that. Okay. And then John's going to talk to various clubs around the state. So we're doing that. That's keeping us busy. We're setting up an elite leadership program. Myself and Wayne Pearce will be delivering that program across Australia for club CEOs and management team. We're looking forward to that. We've been doing some social media masterclasses. I've got a media expert on my team who shows people how to take the right photo and what the different social medias are. And so we're keeping off the streets, Gav. We're really busy.
Sounds good. I've got to admit, being a cricketer and travelling the world, especially in places like India or Pakistan, Sri Lanka, you become a bit of a movie addict, and I was completely addicted to the movie Erin Brockovich.
Yes.
I tell you what, but you've actually been called the Erin Brockovich of this world with regard to what we're talking about.
Yeah, look, I'm very outspoken when it comes to unethical business practices. So this goes back to when I first moved back to Sydney. I joined an organisation that literally sat me through a staff training, and the staff training was entitled How to Move the Goalpost After You Signed Up a Client. They were training me on how to manipulate the terms and conditions. So I've been campaigning against these practices ever since. I'm very passionate about it. I speak at many a club conference on, what to watch out for, and that will continue, my friend.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that, but when you've got the ability to fight for others, you get the ability to be rewarded at times, and you got a little bit lucky. And I was just looking at some of these beautiful medals behind me.
Beautiful, aren't they?
Yeah,
very humbling.
You won the New South Wales Pride of Australia medal, and then later you took out the National Pride of Australia medal. I mean, I'm not being rude here, but going back 25 years ago, I couldn't have imagined that you thought that would have happened.
No. Oh, look, I was very humbled. When I was nominated, you were one of the first people to send me a text, by the way.
Yeah.
When I was nominated, I went, isn't that lovely, I've been nominated. But to win the New South Wales one, and my dad was in the room that day. My dad subsequently passed away, so that was special.
Yeah.
And then Christopher and I got invited to the national awards. But not for 2 seconds did I think I was going to win another medal, so I was very humbled. It was beautiful.
So tell me a little bit about John and how he ended up with being the legal, you became the legal guardian. We're talking about an elderly man who was actually living on the street, and you thought, oh no, I can help here, and you became the legal guardian.
Look, I'm a big animal lover. You probably remember that. I'm mad about animals. So what happened was, I was sitting in the office. It came around Pet Rescue. This gentleman had lost his dog, and when I opened, so the computer's sitting there, I opened there, and I see this homeless man.
Yeah.
And the little dog's about this big, young Carrie, and he's walking around with signs looking for his dog. Now, to be fair, this gentleman used to sit in front of Myer on Pitt Street Mall there, and I'd never spoken to him, but I'd seen John over the years.
Yeah.
And so I went back on this site and said, look, I don't know John, but I know where he sits. And he'd been beaten up by some teenagers, and they'd beaten the dog up, and it was pretty awful. So I went back and said, look, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to put up a reward, because if the dog's taken off up Pitt Street, the dog's either being run over or somebody's got the dog. So let's find out if somebody's got the dog. So I did that. Then the next day he got his dog back. So I went down and introduced myself and went, hi, I'm Debbie, and blah, blah, blah. So I sat in the streets all day with John that day and chatted to him. Now, as I went to leave, he gave me a milk crate and said, will you come back next Friday? This was on a Friday. So every Friday, as best I could, for many years I sat on the streets with John and spoke to a vast array. I spoke to a young lady called Amy, and Amy had her dog with her, and Amy had been attacked by her own father. So the dog was the only thing in her life that protected her. So what really got me is you can't go to a hostel of a night because of the dogs. They won't take the dogs. So I went looking for how do I look after John, but John had some mental health issues at the time. And it turned out to be really, really challenging. And most of those organisations said that the answer is to put the dog down.
Yeah.
Now, you know, I know
Not easy.
what I'd take. Well, I certainly wouldn't put my dog down either. So,
Yeah.
so anyway, that went on for about 5 years. And as John deteriorated, I put my phone number around the dog's neck. So if anything happened to John, they wouldn't do any hurt the dog in any way, shape or form. So I got the phone call one day. We've got this dog. Long story short, I rang all the hospitals. We found John critical in RPA, and he needed an operation. The problem being that he wasn't of sound mind, was the view of the hospital. Therefore, they needed someone to sign the consent forms. I said, that's easy, just me, the consent forms. And they said, well, to do that, you've got to be his legal guardian.
Yeah.
So I found myself sitting in front of 3 judges to become John's legal guardian. John survived that operation. They said he'd never walk or use his hands again. So John ended up in a nursing home near me. I was very fortunate. I got him into a nursing home around the corner from my place.
Yeah.
I've got Carrie, and Carrie and I visit John 4 or 5 times a week, or where I can. And John's gone from strength to strength. He's walking again, using his hands, doing really, really well. Now part of my family, I guess.
It says, I mean, I didn't know that, and it's a great story. I mean, to me, clubs are our almost like church within communities. I mean, clubs are so important. I know to my parents and my friends' parents,
Yes.
how their livelihood, they finish work or they get to that point of retirement, and the club becomes a strong part of their life. But I mean, you're a person that's decided that, I'm looking at the last 20 years, that you don't matter. You're gonna, as long as you're interested in other things or other people, other businesses, other options, it makes your life important, and it's like it is your legacy. And it's like, I'm going to ask you the stupid question here: do you ever take much time for yourself?
Spare time, geez, what is that? No, look, certainly with family. Would you believe Christopher, my son, is now 26, which is mind-boggling to me. So I spend time with family and the dogs, but I also donate a lot of time. So I've been on the board of directors of EasyLink Community Transport. And in fact, I've been chairperson of that board for about 2 years now. And what we do is we take the elderly and disabled via our bus service and cars to critical medical appointments at hospitals and doctors, and also avoid isolation for some people who live on their own or have been living on their own for a long time. We run mystery tours and social outings. So it's about bringing people out of isolation. So I've been associated with that amazing organisation now. I've probably been on the board 5 or 6 years. And during the pandemic, obviously, our clients were a high-risk category. So it was very disappointing that we made the decision to actually shut down the service during the pandemic, because I just didn't want to risk the welfare of our clients and the community. So rather than dwell on that, though, what we did is we actually used our buses and cars, and we went from house to house checking on the welfare of our clients and delivered Anzac Day. We had Anzac Day cookies made, so that was a great thing to do. And it was very grounding, I've got to say. Other than that, I've just stepped on the board of the New South Wales Community Transport Organisation to see if I can't help them out across New South Wales. And I'm also an ambassador for Bendigo Freshwater Bank. So I'm not on the board of the bank, but I'm an ambassador. So I go to a lot of their board meetings, and it's a fantastic organisation. And there's a board of highly intelligent people who give up a substantial amount of time to make sure that Freshwater has a community bank in the area. So again, it's a great thing to do. So that's my spare time, and what little time's left, there's a little bit of Big Bang Theory time in between. So that's pretty much my life as it is, Gaz, in between work and seeing you guys and catching up with friends. Let's remember, you and I have done a lot of fundraising together over the years, my friend. Yeah. So you put yourself out there too. It's so rewarding when you step up and help. Remember we did the Scott Gales thing?
Yeah.
A lot of events over the years.
Scott Gale, yeah. Well, talking about doing great things, Deb, walking is not easy, but you got a couple of good mates that like to walk, Mal Meninga and Alan Border.
Yes.
And you've
AB in particular?
Yeah, it wasn't just walking down to the local shop to get some groceries, was it?
No, well, the AB Trek for Kids, Alan walked from Sydney to Brisbane, which was a major effort. Him and Jane did an amazing effort doing that. So I was asked to walk with that. So what I said was, because you know what an athlete I am, I said that I'd walk out of Byron. So I said to Mel, we'll walk out of Byron. I meant, let's walk to Pottsville, get some sun. So Mel rang AB and said, we'll walk to Brisbane. And I said to him, mate, I can't walk from Byron to Brisbane. That's not 200 or 300 kilometres. And he went, so you're a pussy. So I'll give him pussy. I trained, I did it. I walked into the Gabba. I remember saying to him, don't ever call me a pussy again. And then I died. But I also thought when we walked out of Byron, you know, the new Pacific Highway is flat, so how hard can it be? Of course, AB in his wisdom decided to go the old Pacific Highway, which was hills and never again.
It's a tough climb.
It's a tough climb. It's a tough effort.
Mind you, that sort of effort, talking about tough people, immediately takes me to Dean Jones. And he was not only a tough cricketer, very aggressive player, great player. But,
and a good friend.
And a great friend. We sadly lost him, and it opened our eyes. It changed our world immediately, didn't it?
Look, it slammed me against a wall because I've stopped watching the news. I don't know about you, but the news is too depressing for me. So I hadn't been watching the news. And I rang Christopher to say hi, and Chris went, I'm really sorry, Mum. I said, what are you sorry about? So I'd missed it initially, but it shocked me. It definitely shocked me. I'd spoken to Dino during the COVID shutdown. He would come back home. And we hadn't seen each other for a little while, and we're going to get together, and I was flying down after COVID, or when I could fly again. I fly to Melbourne. We'll catch up before he goes back to India. So to this day I regret that I never got to see him. I'll always regret that.
And the other thing, if anyone doesn't know Dean Jones, most of your time's going to be funny.
You have
some classic.
He was a character. He was an absolute character.
You'd have some classic stories, wouldn't you?
Yeah. The first one that comes to mind is I went to Lords with him and AB many years ago. And you know how much I know about cricket, which is absolutely nothing. So I was sitting with these guys. They went to do some commentary stuff, and two English guys came and sat either side of me. And they said, how you going? How do you feel about the cricket? And I said, oh mate, if you played for England, seriously, it'd be embarrassing. A cloud comes over and they toddle off the field. So we're chatting away. Gosh knows what else I said. When AB and Dino came back, they just looked at these guys and went, so you've met Debbie? And they went, we certainly have. And I've looked at them. Dino said, you've got no idea who you're sitting with, do you? No. Their surnames are Gower and Gatting. So I looked at them and went, guessing they played for England, didn't they?
He was.
But anyway, you've got to make your mark, haven't you?
He was a good man. Mike Gatting was my coach. Is that right? At Balmain when he was out here. But what about...
I'll tell you another one quick one. You know, Dino wasn't shy when it came to talking about how good he was as a cricketer and how much better he was than AB. Used to tell me AB was called Captain Cranky, which I can't imagine. But anyway, I said to him one night at dinner, the three of us were at dinner, I said, so why did you quit? Like, if you were that good and you're top of your game, why did you quit? He said, I got fired. Well, who fired you? He said, your buddy on the other side of the table.
On board,
Bugger.
He might have had a little bit of help from Bob Simpson, but 1993.
You'd think I should have known that, shouldn't I?
Dean Jones was averaging 53 at Test cricket. A brilliant player. Probably at that stage he was our greatest ever one-day cricketer. And there's going to be a chance to celebrate what we can only call as the great life of Dean Jones.
It's going to be emotional, but a great. We want to celebrate Dino, and I'm very humbled that the cricket community's come to me and asked me, can we do a fundraiser of some description? You guys are involved in that, which is going to be sensational. So we want to talk about our stories about Dino and raise some money for heart disease awareness. So as you know, I'm not keen on raising money and handing over a cheque. I like to know where that money goes. So I picture that we're going to buy some sort of equipment and have a plaque on it in memory of Dean Jones, so that everybody who uses that equipment can, think about Dino, and it was in his memory that this equipment was purchased. So that's the aim. That's my aim.
A lovely club would be magnificent to do it in, wouldn't it?
Yeah, well, Clubs Without Borders is all about supporting clubs, so I'm hoping that we can find a good club to take the sort of numbers that I think will want to attend that event. So we've got a couple of clubs in mind that we're working on now.
Well, it'll be an amazing event. We'll see a lot of people there who played with or against Dean Jones and friends, and we'll be able to get to remember what we can only call an astonishing, I'm talking astonishing, career. Because I remember players talking about him in the dressing room, especially the day he took on Ambrose with regard to the white the white sweatbands, and geez, didn't that cause havoc in a dressing room? But talking about a guy who's aggressive and represented us in an amazing way.
Yeah, it's a big loss, and our hearts go out to Jane and the girls. Massive loss for all of us.
It's been great to see you, Deb, and also I'm looking forward to being there. It's going to be a great night, and I hope people...
Well, I'm hoping you're bringing your drum kit, Gavin.
I'm going to bring the drum kit, and you never know what we might do. We might do something special. I think...
Fantastic.
I'll bring a few others too. Probably Mike Whitney and Eric Grove and Mark Spud Carroll and Richard Cheekley and...
Sounds like a fun night, sounds like a dangerous night.
Yeah. You'd be a Noiseworks fan, wouldn't you?
Oh, I quite like Noiseworks, yeah. Who doesn't?
The great Steve Bowby playing bass, that'd be magnificent.
That would be good.
Yeah, really looking forward to it. It's great seeing you, Deb.
Likewise, lovely to see you, and it's good to see you looking so well.
I'm trying to stay thin.